Welcome back, faithful viewers who've been with us from the start. And a warm hello to all newcomers joining our storytelling family today. Get ready for an emotional journey of love, loss, and second chances that will touch your heart deeply. The private jet plummeted through storm clouds, spiraling toward the unforgiving mountain terrain below. In that moment, Billionaire CEO Sam Blackwood saw his life flash before his eyes. Not his empire, but her face. Melody, the childhood friend that he'd abandoned decades ago, that he never imagined she would save him. Have you ever wondered if your first love was truly your last chance at happiness? Samuel Blackwood wasn't born with a silver spoon. He forged it himself from the scraps of his broken childhood. Growing up in Westside Heights, where sirens were lullabies and eviction notices served as wallpaper, Sam learned early that dependence was dangerous. His father vanished one Tuesday morning, leaving only the lingering scent of cologne and a half-empty toolbox. His mother worked 3 jobs, her hands cracked and bleeding as she tucked him in at night. "Never need anyone, Sammy," she'd whisper. "They'll only disappoint you." By 39, Sam had transformed that lesson into Blackwood Industries, a shipping empire spanning 6 continents with a valuation that made Wall Street veterans dizzy. His penthouse overlooked the city like a glass fortress, 60 floors removed from his humble beginnings. Inside those pristine walls, he slept exactly 4 hours each night, his mind calculating acquisitions even in dreams. The business press called him the architect for his precision in constructing deals that never failed. What they didn't see were the vintage cars in his private garage, each one a model his father had promised to restore with him someday. Sam worked on them alone at 3 a.m., grease-stained hands belying his tailored suits and polished image. Women came and went in his life like luxury cars, appreciated for their beauty but ultimately replaceable. His last relationship ended when his fiancée complained he'd checked stock prices during her father's funeral. She wasn't wrong. Vulnerability was inefficient, and Sam had eliminated inefficiencies from his life with surgical precision, until the day gravity claimed his jet, and with it, every illusion of control he'd so carefully constructed. While Sam built empires of steel and glass, Melody Foster built fortresses of a different kind, ones that kept hearts beating against impossible odds. The daughter of a military medic who never returned from overseas, she inherited her father's steady hands and unflinching courage. Where others saw blood and chaos, Melody saw puzzles to solve, lives to save. Her journey from Westside Heights to becoming the youngest chief of trauma surgery at Metropolitan General Hospital wasn't paved with privilege. She worked night shifts as an ER tech through medical school, her textbooks stained with coffee and occasionally tears. When classmates vacationed in the Hamptons, Melody volunteered in war zones, learning to perform miracles with limited supplies and unlimited determination. What made Melody extraordinary wasn't just her skill with a scalpel. She experienced emotions as colors, a neurological gift called synesthesia. Fear appeared as jagged red, pain as deep purple. This allowed her to read patients in ways other doctors couldn't comprehend. Her colleagues whispered about her uncanny ability to predict complications before monitors detected them. Dr. Foster sees through skin. Nurses told new residents, "Don't question her hunches." Despite saving countless lives, Melody's own heart remained carefully guarded. Her engagement to fellow surgeon Dr. James Chen ended when he accepted a prestigious position in Los Angeles, expecting her to abandon her patients and follow. She chose her calling over compromise, but the wound never fully healed. Melody never mentioned that she sometimes drove past Blackwood Tower on her way home, wondering about the boy who once promised to always find his way back to her. Summer 1999. While other kids from Westside Heights played video games or caused trouble, Sam and Melody disappeared into Willow Creek woods behind their neighborhood. There, among ancient oaks and whispering pines, they built a world entirely their own. Their fort evolved each year, from simple lean-tos to an elaborate treehouse with salvaged windows and a trapdoor. Sam calculated load-bearing capacities, while Melody designed healing stations for injured wildlife. He was precision, she was compassion. Together, they were something neither could be alone. Their bond transcended typical childhood friendships. Both understood abandonment intimately. Sam through his father's choice to leave, Melody through her father's sacrifice and service. They recognized in each other a determination to build something lasting from loss. Their final summer together, they created a time capsule from an old ammunition box Melody's father had sent home. Inside, Sam's first business plan, a neighborhood lawn mowing enterprise, Melody's acceptance letter to a prestigious science camp, a mixtape of songs they'd danced to in the fort, and 2 halves of a broken compass, one for each to keep. No matter where we go, 15-year-old Sam promised as they buried it beneath their fort, we'll always find our way back here, to each other. 2 weeks later, his mother married Richard Kensington, a financial advisor who moved them across the city to Lakeside Estates. The invisible thread between Sam and Melody stretched thin, then snapped entirely at the Lakeside Academy winter formal. When Melody appeared as a scholarship student's guest, Sam, now Samuel, pretended not to recognize her among his new wealthy friends. The look in her eyes haunted him for decades afterward, confusion dissolving into understanding, then hardening into something he couldn't bear to name. The Blackwood Industries jet departed Lagos at 2:17 p.m. on a clear Tuesday. Weather reports showed nothing concerning, just scattered thunderstorms over the Atlantic. By 4:38 p.m., the $65 million aircraft was spiraling toward the remote Sierra Leone mountains, communications dead, engines failing. Sam's last conscious thought before impact wasn't of his company's stock price or the billion-dollar West African infrastructure deal he just secured. It was a flash of memory, Melody's laugh echoing through their childhood fort as sunlight filtered through leaves. The crash killed 3 instantly: Captain Reynolds, who'd flown for Sam for 11 years, Diane Winters, his personal assistant and single mother of twins, and Eric Mbeki, his West African operations director. Sam survived by cruel miracle, the rear section of the aircraft remaining partially intact as it carved a burning path through dense forest. For 36 hours, he lay trapped in twisted metal, drifting between consciousness and darkness, his lower body crushed beneath the wreckage. When rescue teams finally reached the remote site, medical personnel gave him a 12% chance of survival. Multiple vertebral fractures, severe internal bleeding, third-degree burns over 20% of body. The trauma team's assessment crackled over radio to Metropolitan General Hospital as the rescue helicopter diverted there due to mechanical issues, a coincidence that would alter the trajectory of 2 lives. Sam spent 3 weeks in a medically induced coma. He awoke to a world of pain and limitations he couldn't comprehend. The man who controlled global shipping routes couldn't control his own bladder. The CEO whose signature authorized billion-dollar transactions couldn't hold a pen. The spinal damage is extensive, a neurosurgeon explained clinically. You may never walk again. We're looking at permanent paralysis below T10. Sam processed this information as he did all data, analytically, emotionally detached, until the night nurse mentioned the name of the trauma surgeon who'd stabilized him upon arrival. Dr. Foster performed a miracle keeping you alive those first hours, she said. She's the best we have. Foster. Sam's heart monitor spiked. Melody Foster? Yes. She's requested to personally oversee your case. The nurse adjusted his 4. Strange coincidence. She mentioned you knew each other as children. That night, Sam dreamed of falling, not through clouds toward mountains, but through time, back toward the person he'd been before ambition and fear had calcified his heart. The first time Melody entered his hospital room as his doctor, Sam almost didn't recognize her. Gone was the girl with wild curls and mismatched socks. In her place stood a woman of composed elegance, her hair now styled in neat locks, her white coat crisp, her stethoscope gleaming. Only her eyes remained unchanged, those perceptive amber depths that had always seen through his carefully constructed walls. Mr. Blackwood, she said, her voice professionally detached as she reviewed his chart. I'm Dr. Foster, head of trauma surgery. Melody, he whispered, his voice still raw from intubation. She paused, finally meeting his gaze directly. The monitor betrayed his quickening pulse. 24 years, and that's all you have to say. Her tone remained clinical, but something flickered across her face, a shadow of their shared past. I'm sorry. The words he'd rehearsed in his mind for decades finally escaped. For the formal. For pretending I didn't know you. Her clipboard lowered slightly. You're apologizing now because you're dependent on my medical expertise? I'm apologizing because I've regretted it every day since. The silence between them hummed with unspoken history. Melody finally broke it, returning to her professional demeanor. Your spinal injury requires aggressive intervention. I've consulted with neurosurgery on an experimental approach that might preserve some function. She explained complex procedures with practiced precision, but her eyes kept returning to the childhood scar on his forehead, the one he'd gotten defending her from neighborhood bullies. When she thought he'd drifted to sleep later that evening, Melody gently touched that scar, a momentary lapse in her professional boundary. Sam caught her wrist, his fingers wrapping around the pulse point, where her heartbeat quickened. "You still wear it," he murmured, noticing the half-compass pendant partially hidden beneath her scrubs, the match to the one buried in his bedside drawer in New York. She withdrew her hand sharply. "Don't mistake medical care for forgiveness, Sam. I took an oath to heal everyone, even those who broke my heart." As she left, Sam realized the true extent of his injuries went far beyond a shattered spine. The most painful recovery would be earning back the trust of the one person who had known him before he became the man he now struggled to recognize in the mirror. While Sam fought for mobility and physical therapy, his empire began crumbling from within. Victor Reeves, his CFO and trusted lieutenant for 15 years, had initiated a stealth takeover bid, leveraging Sam's absence to convince the board his injuries rendered him permanently unfit for leadership. "They're voting next Friday," reported Zoe Chen, Sam's loyal legal counsel, during a clandestine hospital visit. "Reeves has 5 board members aligned. He needs 7. Sam attempted to sit upright, wincing as pain shot through his reconstructed spine. "I need secure communications. Laptop, phone, documents." "The board can't know the extent of your injuries," Zoe warned. "If they see you like this, then they won't see me," Sam decided, his strategic mind calculating despite the morphine. "But I need someone I can trust to be my hands and eyes." That someone improbably became Melody. During a particularly grueling therapy session, Sam proposed a reluctant alliance. "My company employs 47,000 people globally," he explained between labored breaths. "If Reeves takes control, he'll strip assets, lay off thousands." "And this concerns me how?" Melody asked, adjusting his resistance bands with clinical detachment. "Because Metropolitan General's pension fund holds 8% of Blackwood Industries stock. If shares collapse under Reeves, your hospital loses millions." Her hand stilled. "You checked our investment portfolio." "I did my homework," Sam admitted. "Just like when we were kids." Meanwhile, Melody faced her own professional crisis. The hospital board, led by her ex-fiancé James Chun, now returned from Los Angeles with newfound ambition, had voted to close the trauma center due to budget constraints. "We're hemorrhaging money," James explained during a tense meeting. "The community can't support a level 1 trauma center." What James didn't reveal was that a subsidiary of Blackwood Industries had quietly purchased the hospital's debt, information Melody discovered while reviewing Sam's business holdings to help counter the takeover. "You bought our debt," she confronted Sam, storming into his room after hours. "Was this your plan all along? Make me dependent on you saving my hospital?" "I didn't know," Sam insisted, genuinely shocked. "Reeves must have orchestrated it without my knowledge." Their professional entanglement deepened when tabloid journalist Damon Pierce photographed Melody asleep in Sam's room after a 36-hour shift. The resulting front-page story, "Billionaire's Secret Hospital Romance," threatened both their reputations. "Is this why you've taken such personal interest in Mr. Blackwood's case?" the hospital administrator questioned Melody. Simultaneously, Blackwood Industries stock dropped 12% as rumors spread about Sam's condition. As external pressures mounted, Sam received a visitor he hadn't seen in years, his mother, Catherine Kensington, now a polished society matron who barely resembled the hard-working woman who'd raised him in Westside Heights. "Darling, you can't seriously be involving yourself with that foster girl again," she said, arranging imported flowers by his bedside. "Richard and I have arranged for Switzerland's finest rehabilitation facility." "Her name is Dr. Foster," Sam corrected, "and I'm not going anywhere." Catherine's perfectly composed face hardened. Some childhood attachments are best left in childhood, Samuel. Remember what happened last time. The implication hung in the air between them, a threat disguised as maternal concern. If you've ever had to choose between your past and your future, drop a comment below. Would you risk everything for a second chance at first love? The breaking point came during Sam's third week of rehabilitation. His body betrayed him during a transfer from wheelchair to therapy mat, muscles spasming as he collapsed. Frustration erupted into rage, the first genuine emotion he displayed since the accident. Medical equipment crashed against walls as years of controlled composure shattered. "Get out," he shouted at the startled therapist. But Melody remained, calmly collecting scattered items, while Sam's breathing gradually steadied. "Finished?" she asked, her voice neither judgmental nor pitying. "You don't understand what this is like," he said, gesturing at his unresponsive legs. "No, I don't," she agreed, sitting beside him on the floor, doctor and patient momentarily abandoned for something more fundamental. "But I understand loss. And fear." Something in her quiet presence cracked his final defense. Words poured out about his stepfather's ultimatum after the winter formal. Cut ties with his old neighborhood friends, especially that foster girl, or watch his mother lose the medical insurance covering her lupus treatments. "I was 15, Sam confessed, voice barely audible. "I chose my mother's health over my own heart." Melody's expression shifted as decades of hurt reorganized into understanding. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was ashamed. And then it was too late." The confession altered something fundamental between them, not forgiveness exactly, but the beginning of truth. Days later, Sam developed a life-threatening infection, his temperature soaring to 104 as sepsis threatened his already compromised system. For 36 straight hours, Melody fought to save him, refusing to transfer his care despite hospital protocol regarding personal connections. "I'm the best chance he has," she insisted to administrators. "Personal history is irrelevant." But when Sam stabilized and she finally succumbed to exhaustion in the chair beside his bed, the tabloid photographer captured their hands intertwined, her professional reputation compromised by what appeared to be favoritism rather than dedication. Learning that Melody's trauma center faced closure, Sam made a decision without consulting her. Anonymous funding appeared through a complex series of offshore accounts, enough to keep the center operational for 5 years. When Melody traced the money back to him, her fury was incandescent. "You had no right," she confronted him. "This is exactly what your stepfather did, using money to control people's choices." "I was trying to help," Sam argued, "by deciding what's best for me, for my hospital." "That's not help, Sam. That's control." Their argument revealed the fundamental wound between them, trust broken and not yet rebuilt. Yet beneath the anger lay unmistakable care, the magnetic pull of two people who recognized parts of themselves in each other. The final catalyst came when Zoe Chin discovered evidence that Victor Reeves had not only orchestrated the hostile takeover, but potentially arranged the plane crash itself. Documents revealed Reeves had invested heavily in rival companies that would benefit from Blackwood Industries' collapse. "We need proof to take to authorities," Zoe explained. "But Reeves controls all internal communications now." Melody, whose brother worked in digital security, proposed a dangerous solution, using her hospital access to set a trap, baiting Reeves with falsified medical records suggesting Sam had suffered cognitive damage that would permanently prevent his return. "If he believes you're mentally incapacitated, he'll get sloppy," she reasoned. "But it means putting my medical license at risk." "Why would you do that for me?" Sam asked. Melody's answer was simple. "Because 24 years ago, you took a beating from Joey Mancini's gang when they tried to steal my science project. Some debts don't expire." As they worked together, his strategic mind and her medical expertise combining once again, the walls between past and present, doctor and patient, began to dissolve. 1 year after the crash, against medical advice and Melody's vehement objections, Sam insisted on returning to the accident site in Sierra Leone. The wreckage had long been cleared, but the scarred earth remained, a testament to lives lost and forever altered. What neither anticipated was the sudden seasonal storm that stranded them at the remote site. Their pilot was forced to evacuate, promising to return when weather cleared, leaving them alone in a hastily erected ranger cabin with minimal supplies and maximum unresolved tension. "When I was in the coma," Sam confessed as rain lashed the tin roof, "I dreamed of our fort. Not my penthouse or offices. That rickety structure we built when we were 12. It was the only place I've ever felt truly safe." Melody's professional reserve finally crumbled. "I've turned down chief surgical positions at Johns Hopkins and Mayo Clinic. Everyone thought I was crazy to stay at Metropolitan." She paused. "I stayed because some part of me was waiting for you to find your way back." Near midnight, the storm intensified. A massive lightning strike hit nearby, sending a century-old tree crashing through the cabin's roof. Despite his disability, Sam's instinct was immediate. He launched from his wheelchair, using his upper body strength to shield Melody from falling debris, further injuring himself in the process. "Why would you do that?" Melody demanded, medical training kicking in as she assessed his new injuries. "Some choices aren't choices at all," he answered through gritted teeth. As rain poured through the damaged roof and Melody worked to free him, they found themselves laughing, a release of tension that transformed into something like their childhood connection before life's complications intervened. By dawn, when rescue finally arrived, something fundamental had shifted. They'd survived not just the night's danger, but the harder journey back to each other, a path more treacherous than any mountain rescue. 6 months later, Blackwood Industries held its annual shareholder meeting. The company had transformed as dramatically as its CEO. Victor Reeves now occupied a federal prison cell, his sabotage exposed through the trap Melody had helped set. The boardroom, once dominated by profit projections, now featured a new mission statement: connecting communities, not just commerce. Sam navigated to the podium in a sleek wheelchair of his own design, the prototype of Blackwood Medical Mobility, the company's newest division specializing in adaptive technology. Though experimental treatments had restored limited function to his legs, allowing him to stand briefly with support, he chose to present from his chair. "My greatest failure wasn't the crash that nearly killed me," he told shareholders. "It was building a company that valued efficiency over humanity. Today marks a new direction." Meanwhile, Metropolitan General's Trauma Center had been renamed the Foster Institute for Emergency Medicine, a teaching facility that drew surgeons from around the world to learn Melody's innovative techniques. The hospital that once faced closure now anchored a medical district, revitalizing the surrounding neighborhood. That neighborhood was Westside Heights, the community where Sam and Melody had grown up. Using a foundation they established together, they purchased and restored blocks of deteriorating housing, creating affordable homes for medical staff and patients' families. On a spring afternoon, they visited the site of their childhood fort in Willow Creek Woods. The area had been transformed into a healing garden for recovering patients. Beneath the ancient oak that had sheltered their treehouse, Sam presented Melody with a small wooden box, a perfect miniature replica of their childhood fort. Inside lay not jewelry, but a key to the West African Medical Center they were building near the crash site, named for her father and for those who died in the crash. The final scene of their story unfolded at the medical center's opening ceremony. As cameras flashed, Sam rose briefly from his wheelchair, standing with support to cut the ribbon while Melody steadied him. Their hands intertwined, they represented not a fairy tale ending, but something more authentic. Two people who had lost each other and found their way back, stronger in their broken places. "The most powerful stories aren't about people who never fall," Sam told the gathered crowd. "They're about those who learn to rise again, changed by the falling." Later, away from cameras, they returned to the spot where the ranger cabin had stood during the storm that catalyzed their reconnection. There, they buried a new time capsule containing the half-compasses they'd kept separated for 25 years, now reunited and whole again. "Some journeys take a lifetime," Melody said as they covered it with earth, "but they're worth every step." If this story touched your heart, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to believe in second chances. Have you ever reconnected with someone from your past? Tell us your story in the comments below.